Okay, Real Progressives, it's 8 o'clock Wednesday. It is the 20th. My name is Jeff Ginter. This is Real Progressives Jeff Ginter Live. Thanks for joining. I'm going to be speaking today about not so much the differences between the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare versus single payer. I want to specifically be addressing the idea of why would one simply, in my opinion, simply acquiesce to the idea of the ACA, an insurance-based system, a market solution-based system, when you could have everything. We could save a few people, or we could save everyone. Now, I understand that the reason this happens is because of fear. What it really comes down to is fear. The fear that, yes, we could have everything, but it's going to raise taxes an incredible amount. Or we could have everything, but it's going to mean that insurance companies are going to go out of business and they're going to have a huge amount of pushback against that, so it'll never happen, so why bother? And then, of course, you have people that don't think we should have single payer. They're ideologically opposed to it. There's a whole spectrum of reasons, but they all come down to fear. The fear that there's not going to be enough. There's not enough money to get it done, or it's going to have to be too much of my money, or. I want to really try to address the fear. I want to try to address the why. That people that we consider to be our allies can't agree. They don't universally say that we have to have a single payer system of delivery. They are quite content to say, look, just cover everyone. Just cover everyone. Make it cheap, make it affordable, but cover everyone. And they don't get it. They don't understand that it won't matter if you simply cover everyone with private insurance. Because private insurance doesn't want to cover you. Private insurance doesn't want to pay for it. Private insurance wants to put as much money as it possibly can, your money, the money that you would be paying into it. And they want to put it into their pocket. And they want to keep as much of it in their pocket as possible. They don't like to sharesy-daresy. They want what they want, and what they want is more of what you got. They want your money. So they're not going to spend what they now consider to be their money unwisely saving your life, doing what is necessary. So if we can at least agree on that, if we could at least agree that for-profit enterprise does not fundamentally care about you. It does not fundamentally care about your life, your death, your health. It only cares about what it can get from you, what it wants from you, which is your money. It wants as much of it as possible. I don't see a reason why we can't all get around that particular idea. What we need to move forward from there is to understand the ramifications. If all they want is my money, and they don't give a shit what kind of outcome I get, they just want my money, as much of it as they can get for as long as they can get, then why would they possibly be the best choice? If they're not concerned about my health, they're only concerned about my wallet, my pocketbook, how can that possibly mean that they also care about my health? At the end of the day, we want to be healthy. At the end of the day, we, the American people, everyone wants to be healthy. We want to be able to get up in the morning and be healthy, and go to bed at night and be healthy, and all the times and minutes in between, we want to be healthy. We want to be able to play with our children, and God forbid, we want them to be healthy as well. There's no one that is saying that I simply want to live a long time and I don't care what the quality of that life is between now and then. We want to be healthy. That's the goal. Live long by all means, but however long your life is, let them be quality years. Let them be healthy years. And your insurance company doesn't care about that. Your pharmaceutical company doesn't care about that. And I don't understand how there can be a disagreement with this. If we understand this, we should not be fighting to continue it. We should start to understand that, quite honestly, yes, it can be a lot worse without the ACA. It has been a lot worse without the ACA. For some, it's been worse with the ACA from an affordability standpoint. The only ones for whom this has been universally better has been the insurance companies. They got a whole bunch of new customers. And then they also got a GOP that's screwing around with them. So there's a lot of instability. They don't like that, but they're still making money hand over fist. And we're not getting any healthier. So if we understand this, can we please get off the idea of the ACA? It is the law of the land, and it should be protected. So when the Cheeto-in-chief starts saying that he is going to direct his Department of Justice to stop defending it, to stop defending the pre-existing condition clause, or to stop defending any law. That's not the job of the president. The president's job, amongst other things, is to defend the law of the land. You can disagree with it, but you have to follow the letter of the law. So by all means, defend the ACA, but walk and chew gum at the same goddamn time. You want to be able to preserve the ACA? Fair enough. It's doing a lot of good, as well as a lot of harm, but it's doing a lot of good. But it's not going far enough. Remember, the goal is health. The goal is health without the downside of bankruptcies and early death, needless death. Remember, an insurance company is a private organization, and it wants to keep as much of its money as possible. What used to be your money is now its money, and it wants to keep it, which means it's not going to spend it on you without putting up a hell of a fight first. And I see it every day in the office. Every day I have to fight with an insurance company to get basic things covered because they don't want to do it. So let's stop fighting to expand it. Let's remember that we can fight to preserve it while we still create single-payer health care. It's not one or the other in the short term. We can do both. We defend what is already there, and we build something new, something better. We don't have to build on the ACA. Nancy Pelosi wants to build on the ACA. She's using all manner of doublespeak to say that you can't do single payer, something brand new. Would have been wonderful to do it if we had done it from the beginning, but we didn't. This is what we have, so we have to build upon that. No, screw that. Absolutely screw that. We have the ability to do it right now. Well, this Congress isn't ready for it. I don't give a shit if this Congress is ready for it. Get it ready for it. Be a goddamn leader. You are the leader of the party in the House. Get it ready. And if you can't, goodbye. We will go around you. Which leads us to the people who say that we're not going to have it because it's too expensive. First, please, spare me that it's going to be too expensive. It has been shown again and again and again that doing single payer would actually be deflationary. It would be less expensive than what we pay currently. Now, I would be perfectly content to keep paying what we currently do if the results we got were robust, if the results that we got were anywhere in the ballpark of sufficient, let alone robust, let alone amazing. But it's not. We are running a horrible system that is losing by a wide variety of metrics, not the least of which is life expectancy. So I'm not interested in building upon that system. Shit in gets you shit out. I don't want to build upon a system that is already fundamentally flawed. Not just in its ideological makeup, but also in its actual makeup. You build something new. You build something strong from the ground up. Everyone in, nobody left behind. How is this a concept that is just anathema to Democrats. I understand why Republicans don't want to do it, but Democrats? Theoretically, the party of the people, the party that gave us the New Deal, the party that championed civil rights. How is this the case? Well, I'll tell you how it's the case. They got bought. They got bought by the same corporations that bought the Republicans. And they are bought specifically and positioned specifically to give you the false ideology of choice. For those that lean a particular way, we have the Republicans. At the end of that, you do not have single-payer health care because they don't think it's appropriate. They want to have free market solutions. They want there to be your choice to have it or not to have it. That's as polite a way as I can put it as possible. And then on the flip side, for those that think that's too cruel, we have the Democrats. And the Democrats are going to be much nicer about it. And they're going to say, oh, yes, but free market solutions, we want everyone covered, absolutely. But we want it covered by corporations who will be able to make money off of you. Please don't look behind that curtain and see the line of people that are lining up to die. Because when a private corporation is in charge of saving your life and they're still trying to make a profit, if they have to choose between one or the other, you're going to die. Because they want to make a profit. They won't even hesitate. They won't blink. You're dead. And they'll pocket the change. So what it really comes down to is, if the Republicans aren't going to give it to you, and the Democrats aren't going to give it to you, neither one of them want to. One of them, they both want free market solutions. One of them, Republicans, wants it to be your choice to be covered or not. Democrats say, yes, everyone should be covered, but it's still going to be a corporation that's going to do it. So at the end of the day, we're still going to have hundreds of thousands of people dying every year. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. This is the support for single payer. If you actually look at this, one of the things that we're dealing with, one of the problems that we have to come to terms with is this right here. People that are willing to pay more. They are willing to pay more. That kind of sounds like the government needs our money to be able to get us more. Oh yeah, I definitely want single payer, they'll say. But it's going to cost money. Our taxes are going to have to go up. And then half the country is going to say, well, I don't want that to happen. And the other half will say, yeah, I'm actually okay with that. I'm getting something for my money. There's a problem with this. And it's huge. Because the government doesn't need your money. Look at all those people over here. That's on that side. Look at all these people over here. Okay, support for single payer. 73% support the idea of single payer. 57% are okay with paying more taxes for that privilege. I want to play you something. This is Dr. Crenshaw of Harvard University. He's giving a talk, and I just want you to hear what he has to say about how we fund things. It's about a minute or two.
Great. Well, thanks, Joe. And I'm thrilled to be here. Just coming to listen to Joe's summary of the ACA is mostly what gets me here. But in any case, if you came hoping to know what healthcare is going to look like in 2020, maybe Joe knows, but honestly, I don't, and I don't know if anybody does. So I want to talk about broad issues that the country faces regarding healthcare and how that might play out. So let me start with a very basic point. There's a certain amount of money that the country spends on healthcare. That money gets financed by the population writ large. There's no magic tooth fairy that puts $10,000 under your pillow if you have a heart attack. There's no money tree somewhere, rich Uncle Sam. One way or another, all the money comes from the population, goes through a bunch of other hands, insurers and others, but ends up, not all of it necessarily, but the vast bulk of that ends up with a delivery system. And so hopefully no one tweeted to the 4-year-olds watching us online that there's no tooth fairy, but nevertheless, one way or another, we have to figure out what we're going to do. And it turns out that if that amount of money that we spend on healthcare services grows at the rate which it has historically grown, there's no amount of financing, discussion, back and forth, taxes, pooling, that's going to solve that basic problem. We're getting to a point where there's just a fundamental fiscal problem that stems from the overall amount of money and the rate of growth in the amount of money that we spend on healthcare. And so when we think about the Affordable Care Act or whatever set of letters, the American Health Care Act or whatever new letters they put in place, it's all about how to manage that total pool of money and then how it's going to be paid for. And in thinking about the different strategies, you have to think about the distributional fairness, who's paying, and what the provisions of that bill do to control that total amount of spending.
So listen to what he had to say. Oh, pardon me, I think I muted myself. Listen to what he had to say. You know, he's talking about taking a whole pool of money. You know, the money comes from outside, the money comes from without the government. Everyone has to pay into it, and then we get to decide what to do with that pool of money. You know, and then it comes to be about priorities. What are we going to do with this pool of money? How are we going to spend this pool of money? Sounds like a household. Sounds like a business. It sounds like whoever pays for it. As he says, it depends on who pays for it. You know, but this is the big question. This is what Real Progressives tries to get to the heart of all the time, exclusively. Who pays? It matters who pays. Do you have any idea how expensive healthcare has become? I mean, anyone that has even so much as a copay to see a doctor, if you had to pay for it out of pocket, just your average, primary care visit, assuming nothing went wrong, $100 on average, depending upon where you are in the country. But $100 is nothing. God forbid they would have to do an EKG. God forbid they have to do any shots. It really can add up if you had to pay for it out of pocket. And that's just a simple, physical, a simple office visit if you had to pay for it on your own. Now add on top of that if you had to do an x-ray, if you had to do an MRI, if you had to do a CAT scan, if you had to do a catheterization, if you had to do, it gets really expensive really fast. And if you were on the hook for all that, you yourself, if you had to pay for all of that out of your paycheck, that is a serious, serious problem. Not many people would be able to afford to go to a doctor at all. Latest statistics say that 40 to 60% of the population is either in poverty or one bad paycheck away from falling into poverty. And as everyone knows, once you're in poverty, the ways out are slim. Very narrow pathway to getting out. Once you're in, the system keeps you in. You can get out, but it's hard. It's very hard. The deck is stacked against you. Seriously against you. How many people? 40 to 60%. If you had to pay for it out of your own pocket, you'd probably never go to a doctor ever. Now, if your boss is flipping the bill, you're getting it from the insurance company and you are upset that for every month you got to pay maybe $50 to $200 out of your paycheck to be able to have your insurance. And that's a lot of money every month, right off the top. If you're lucky, it's pre-tax. But that's still an awful lot of money that could be going in your pocket every month. Would absolutely, positively not cover a doctor's visit. $50 to $200, maybe you could see your doctor once. God forbid it goes anywhere beyond that initial visit. If they find anything, if there's anything they want to do, any test, blood work gets really expensive. So $50 to $200 is not going to help you be able to afford your health care, but it sure would go a long way towards food, groceries, gas, car payment. It would go a long way towards things that would actually help build up the economy. So you complain about that, but you haven't seen how much your boss is putting into this. Very often, they're putting upwards of 2 to 10 times as much on your behalf. So imagine if they've got 50 employees, 1,000 employees, 10,000 employees, how much they're actually paying overall. And that's not including everything they have to pay to be able to have part of their human resources department constantly researching plans because they keep changing. You've got an entire wing of your corporation, of your employment, anyone that offers health insurance, they're constantly taking time out of their day, whether it's the boss, if it's a really small business, or a wing of human resources, if it's a larger business, but there's a large portion of their day that's money earned going towards that, trying to figure out how to get the best health care for the least amount of money. So your boss pays a shitload of money, and it's still, if they gave everything back to you that they would pay on you individually, including time waste and time spent trying to get the plan, you still wouldn't be able to pay for your health care if anything went wrong. It's only by pooling everyone together and hoping that the healthy don't need it and then more resources can go towards the sick. Only then can that system work. That's what insurance is. You pool your resources. And at that point, you're still dealing with a company that doesn't want to pay. It matters who pays the bills. You can't do it. At current prices, you can't do it. Your boss is breaking their back to be able to do it. So they're chipping in an awful lot. And then there's the insurance company. And at the end of that system, in the end of all that money being pooled, we still get shitty outcomes. It matters who pays. So people will say, great, okay, let's have a single payer system. Well, the federal government doesn't want to do it, fine, we'll get the states to do it. That's fine, up to a point. But the states still have to be able to get the money. And then they're still going to deal with an insurance company at the end of that. Whether they become the insurance company themselves or they pay it to Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shield, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they still have a pool of money. The state will have to be able to tax and borrow to be able to get the money to get it done. At the end of the day, there will only be so much money in that pool. Unless they want to tax you into the Stone Age, destroying their own economy. By the way, only certain states are going to be able to do this. Others won't have a robust economy enough to be able to do it. Vermont tried, Vermont failed. They could not come up with a plan of taxation and borrowing that would still get them anywhere close to a decent system. So what was the point? They abandoned it. Vermont won't be able to do it. Oklahoma won't be able to do it. The Dakotas won't be able to do it. Mississippi won't be able to do it. I can go on. Only a few states will have enough revenue to be able to put together a single payer healthcare that will in fact cover everyone, but will still have a limited amount of resources dedicated to that purpose. And if you only have a limited amount, decisions will have to be made. And just like a for-profit company, if it's between profit and your life, they'll choose profit. And the state, if it's between your life and we just don't have the money, I would do it if I could, but I can't. I don't have it. So I'm sorry. There's only so much we can do. And why is this? Because a corporation, a state, a municipality, you, me, we are currency users. We use currency. We do not issue currency. So everyone that is terrified of single-payer healthcare, it's going to be too expensive. I don't want my taxes to go up. It's just not going to happen. We'd have to put the insurance companies out of business. That's not going to happen. So we're not going to do it. Stop fighting for single payer. You're threatening the blue wave that's coming. We need to get rid of Donald Trump. That is the most important thing. And I agree, getting rid of Trump is incredibly important. But who are you going to replace him with? He is narcissistic. He is racist as fuck. He is absolutely an inappropriate choice to sit behind that desk, or any desk as far as I'm concerned. Ran so many of his businesses into the ground. Have we learned nothing? But who is going to take over? And I'm not talking about don't get rid of Trump because then we'll just be stuck with Pence. And yes, we should be afraid of Pence. What we should be afraid of more than anything is sending the same people again and again. And I'm not talking about individuals, I'm talking about ideology. Remember, Republicans don't want to give you single-payer health care, and neither do Democrats. Both of them wanted to be a free market solution. The only difference between the two is that Republicans wanted to be your choice to do it or not. And Democrats want everyone to be covered, but at the end of the day, it's still a for-profit company, and your life is very much at risk. And even if it's not your life, it is the possibility of bankruptcy. There is no such thing as an insurance plan that is going to cover everything sufficient to make sure, to guarantee that you will not go bankrupt as a result of your health. Bankruptcy leading to homelessness, leading to death. Neither of the parties want this to happen. So yes, let's get rid of Trump. But let's start teaching people how federal finance works so that we can put someone in the White House who will actually know how to pay for it through federal appropriations. This is what Real Progressives is all about. This is how we're going to win. If you're afraid of single payer, if you're afraid it's going to make us lose an election, I'm not afraid of losing an election. I'm afraid of winning an election with someone who still doesn't want to do it. What is the point of putting someone in there who is not going to get you single payer, is not going to get you a federal jobs guarantee, is not going to get us to 100% green energy now while we need it right now? We don't need it later in the future. The future might not come for you and I. We have no idea. And every credible scientist on the planet is pulling their hair out saying, you better fucking take this seriously. Like you should have 20 years ago. How much time do you think we have? My money's on not enough. So I'm not interested in putting all my eggs in the basket of a single person or a single party. I will fight tooth and nail for someone, anyone, who is absolutely positively going to fight for a Green New Deal, federal jobs guarantee, single-payer healthcare. You fight for these things. And while I may not be loyal to you, I will be loyal to those ideologies, and I will fight for you. I will fight with you. You will have an ally until the day comes, and I hope it doesn't, but when you're bought and sold and I suddenly have to turn my back on you in favor of someone else. And don't think I won't do it. No one earns loyalty, but you can learn to earn an ally and learn to keep that ally by keeping faith with the program. Stop being in love with power. Stop being in love with money. Stop being in love with position and celebrity. Start being in love with saving lives. How many lives? How about all of them? How about being bold? How about reaching for the brass ring? How about not settling for less than we deserve, for less than we can have? Because we can have it. Because Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution mandates 3 things. 1, Congress, and only Congress, can create the currency. No one else can. No one. If I go down to my basement and I start making US dollars, that's counterfeiting. I go to jail. Only Congress, not banks. No one creates the federal currency, high-powered money, the US dollar, just Congress. They then go forward and say what a dollar is going to be worth. And then they will enforce the need for that currency through taxation. These three things are the pillars, the cornerstone of the U.S. economy. They are the cornerstones, the pillar of the currency of the federal government. And they can create as much of it as they want. Not that they should create as much of it infinitum into the future. We do have restrictions. And I will briefly enumerate what they are. When we were on a gold standard, as we were for the vast majority of the life of this country, we were on a gold standard. Remember, Article 1, Section 8 tells us what a U.S. dollar is going to be worth. Congress will tell you. And for a long time, they told you that a U.S. dollar was worth so many ounces of gold. And while that is true, you can only have so much money in circulation. Because if people start to take their U.S. dollars, take them back to the bank and say, well, give me what this is actually worth. I want gold. If everyone starts doing that, and suddenly there's not enough gold, they put out too much currency, they got a problem. They just devalued the currency. So if they wanted to spend more than they had in gold reserves, they would tax. The tax that they were doing anyway to give value to the currency, they would recycle some of that back into the economy to keep a stable money supply and still be able to spend on what they need. But this system had huge amounts of volatility. Look it up. Look at all the bank runs that we had. The last one being in the Great Depression. People just running and getting a run on the bank, run on the bank. If you don't want to look it up, in a history book or a textbook, watch It's a Wonderful Life. They'll talk about, a run at the bank there if you want something a little bit more palatable for your digestion. But that's what it comes down to. That system is unstable because gold is a finite commodity. It is not currency, it is a commodity. It's in the ground. You got to dig it up. There's only so much of it out there. And gold mines are drying up. We find new ones. The price keeps coming up, keeps coming down. It was unstable. And then when the last time we had a run on the bank, the stock market crashed and we went into the Great Depression. And then along comes FDR and takes us off the gold standard. Why? Why would he take us off the gold standard? Why would he change the monetary system? I'll tell you why. Again, a private corporation doesn't care about you. Capitalism does not care about you. I'm sorry, Nancy Pelosi. We're capitalists. Fine, you're a capitalist. How wonderful for you. Capitalism, in and of itself, has no empathy. It does not care about anything except profit. Profit, 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 profit. And that system leaves millions of people behind, as it did in the Great Depression. Because the people that had all the money, the federal government keeps spending it into the economy, it winds up in the hands of the 1%, and they don't want to be able to spend down. As their businesses become less profitable, they lay people off. They're not going to hire, they're not going to build new factories if there's not going to be any sales. Why would they do that? We have rampant unemployment. Remember, they were on a gold standard. They needed your taxes to be able to spend big. They needed your taxes to be able to spend. And if there's not enough tax revenue, well, then they don't have as much money to use. Because again, the only reason that was true is because they had to defend gold reserves. I've got $100 billion in gold. I can only have $100 billion in circulation. So if I need to spend more than $100 billion, I either got to find more gold, dig it up, buy it, start a war, to the winners go the spoils, or I'm going to have to take some of that tax revenue and recycle it. And if unemployment starts skyrocketing, suddenly I don't have as much tax revenue, suddenly I can't spend as much, and the private sector isn't doing anything about it. It's not because we didn't have the productive capacity. It's not because we didn't have the factories. It's not because we didn't have the labor. Private industry just doesn't want to put it to use. Why? Because it can't make money off of it. It only wants to make profit. It is not interested in creating a better society. So FDR took us off the gold standard, because if we're not getting revenue from taxation, then we have to abandon the gold standard. I'm sorry, your dollars are now simply worth dollars. We no longer promise to exchange that for anything other than US dollars. You bring a $20 bill to the Federal Reserve and we will give you 2 10s. We will give you 4 5s or 21s. We'll give you change, but we're not giving you gold. Your money is your money. But on the flip side, now the federal government is financially untethered. I don't have to have a consistent $100 billion supply of currency. I don't give a shit how much gold I have. Woohoo! I can now spend $150 billion if I want to, or $160 or $200 billion if that's what it takes. The only restriction is, did I spend too much in the wrong parts of the economy? And now people now have cash on hand. They are now having a demand for goods and services. Do we have the goods and services for those people to pay? If everyone has cash and everyone wants an iPhone and Apple cannot keep up with that demand, they've opened up all the factories they can, they have hired all the workers they can, they simply cannot keep up production. And people still are demanding, well, then the cost of that iPhone is going to go up. Because we have to somehow curtail that demand. And if the federal government is going to do it through taxation, then Apple is going to have to do it with higher prices. We're going to have to start pricing it out of reach so that not everyone can have it. Or the federal government can simply raise taxes. We have spent too much. Time has gone by. It looks like we are running out of productive capacity. We're at our max employment. We can't seem to eke out any more capacity here in output. So maybe we're going to have to start raising taxes, or maybe we'll sell bonds. Maybe we'll sell bonds. Anything to suck out some of that demand. Somehow, either voluntarily through the issuing of bonds or savings accounts, IRA accounts, whatever, or involuntarily through taxation. Just get some of that money out of circulation so that people have less of it, therefore they'll have less demand. And then we won't have inflation. This is the limit. The federal government no longer cares, or should care, how much it spends. It should care very much where it spends. I don't care, that the tax plan that Trump had was going to put a $1.5 trillion, extra on the deficit. I don't care. No one should care about the size of the deficit. You should care where that money was spent. I care that the tax plan gave so much more money to the rich, the people that didn't need it, the people that aren't going to spend it on the economy, the people that aren't going to actually do much more of anything other than buy back their own shares of stock, make themselves even richer. Meanwhile, the rest of us are still going, please, sir, can I have some more? That is not good tax policy. 40 years should have taught us by now that trickle-down economics doesn't work, never does. Because the people that are in business, while on the one hand they want the money, they want all the money, as much as they can get their greedy little fucking hands on, are also not going to spend that money on their own businesses if they don't think there's going to be a payoff at the end of the day. They're not going to open a factory and hire workers, as an example, out of the goodness of their hearts, knowing that there won't be any more demand as a result. I'll come back to the iPhone. There's no point in Apple producing more iPhones, opening up more factories and hiring more workers to do that if people cannot afford an iPhone. There's no point. Trickle down doesn't work. Never does. Trickle up. That's the only thing that works. Federal government, please spend money on the people. Spend it on the public purpose. Spend it for single-payer health care. You will be able to see a huge sigh of relief in business as they no longer have to dedicate all that money to being able to provide health insurance for their employees. Suddenly they'll be able to do other things with that money. And a lot of them will probably just pocket it. That's just the reality. Making sure they don't have to spend money on health care is the same thing as giving them a huge tax break. You think you're going to give them a tax break and they're going to spend it on you. They're not. They're not. Not on the aggregate. I'm sure you'll find some people that have a good feeling in their heart, and that's always the way it is. But on the aggregate, no. They don't have to spend money on health care. They will be very grateful as they pocket that money themselves. Now, some people may, you get a little bit of a raise here, a little bit of a bump there, but on the overall, no, I don't expect that to happen. If that kind of thing were to happen, then trickle-down economics might actually work, but it doesn't. But the businesses would be very happy. Businesses everywhere should be fighting for single payer. And again, the only reason they don't is because they think, oh, fine, I'm saving money now, but you're just going to raise my taxes later on. It's going to be kind of a wash. This is the point. The federal government issues the currency. They don't use the currency. They issue the currency. They don't need your taxes to fund anything. What they need to be doing, what they currently do, is do exactly this. They issue currency and they spend it where they want to. So the federal government will give everything to the military-industrial complex. Anything they want and so much more. They'll give it to Wall Street. They'll give it to the people who have set up a system to make sure that, yes, this is how the system works. MMT is exactly a description of currency, and we know it, and we have built a system to funnel it to us and away from you. So we need to send people to Congress who say, yeah, we're going to deconstruct that system, and we're going to not so much funnel it over here, we're going to distribute it. It is not taking money and distributing it. This is not Robin Hood. This is the federal government setting priorities. It's not a budget. They're not taking all the money they possibly can and deciding what to do with it. This is not what Chernow was trying to get at. The federal government will set priorities. In this fiscal year, we will say that healthcare is vitally important. So let's figure out how much it would cost to cover everyone from womb to tomb. It's going to cost that much? Great. Let's set up a system and let's get that done. And we will pay. Next, defense is very important, but how much do we actually need to spend? Well, if we got 100% green energy and all our energy needs were done right here in a sustainable way, forget about fossil fuels, 100% green energy. Well, the need for the military budget will go right into the shitter because we won't need to be having foreign wars for oil. We won't care. Thank you very much, Saudi Arabia. Why don't we spend all the money that we currently spend on war and spend on making sure that everyone else has human rights? We won't do business with you if your country doesn't treat women as equals. How about that? We're not going to come in and tell you what to do, but we're not going to have anything to do with you until you actually do that. We have a huge, huge opportunity. It's a federal set of priorities. It's not a budget. And if we send the right people, we don't need a blue wave. A blue wave is too narrow a thought process. A blue wave, blue no matter who, will not get the job done unless your whole point is simply knock the Republicans out, get rid of Donald Trump, impeach, impeach, impeach. If the goal is to create a better society, then we have to send better people to do it, because the current crop don't want to. They like it the way it is. So it's up to us. We have to be educated on how federal finance actually works. Tell them that I don't want a balanced budget. Tell them I want a balanced economy. I want you to be able to spend on the public purpose. I want you to be able to look to the economy and say, this part needs help, that part doesn't. Wall Street is very fine, thank you very much. Let's regulate the shit out of that so that the '08 collapse doesn't happen again. But we need community farming. We need community policing. We need better schools. If we keep putting it on the states to fund it through their property taxes, we are never going to have the robust education system that we should be having. Fund it from the federal government, but administer it locally. The federal government doesn't care how much it costs. They want you to care how much it costs. They want you to think that it's going to be your tax dollars that go towards paying for it. They want you, they need you to believe that, so that you will fight with your neighbors. They don't want you fighting with them. Fight with your neighbors. Fight with the people in your neighboring towns. Fight amongst yourselves, amongst the scraps, the illusion of scarcity. Please, for God's sakes, don't understand how things actually work and then come at us with real knowledge, threatening our jobs. We have to out-educate them. We have to educate each other. We have to be able to get on board with the idea that the federal government is not fiscally constrained. It is resource constrained. Balance the economy, not the books. Single-payer healthcare is not a burden on taxpayers. It is a boon. And for everyone out there that is simply saying, no, you have to fight for the ACA. I'm sorry, it has to be ACA. You are the reason that single payer is in jeopardy. You are the reason why we have to work extra hard to be able to do something good for the whole country, which includes you, by the way. You fight against us. You fight against your own self-interest, against the self-interest of everyone else. You fight against your neighbors. You fight against everything that you say you hold so dear. If you want better, do better. So everyone here that's watching, please share this video. Share Real Progressives' ideas. Learn it to the degree that you can have a conversation about it, because we need to have conversations. People need to start understanding we can have everything that we need to live. This is the single greatest resource-rich nation in the world. And because we are a net importer, we actually get to share the resources of the rest of the world. Just close your eyes for a moment. Just imagine a world that you want to live in. In that world, do you have a job? Is it a good job? Is it a job you want? Does it pay great? Does it have benefits? Are you able to take vacations? Are you able to go out with your family? Are you able to live in a good home? Doesn't have to be an opulent home. Doesn't have to be an opulent vacation. Just, do you have time for your life? In this world that you're thinking of, do you worry about getting sick? Beyond the, I know one wants to be sick, are you worried about how it's going to be paid for? Are you worried that you're going to lose your job? Are you worried that you're going to lose your home? In this world you've created in your mind, do you have breathable air? Do you have drinkable water? Do you have good, healthy, nutritious food? In this world you've created, what's the crime rate at? Are you worried about walking down the street late at night? Are you worried about people breaking into your home? Are you worried about sending your children to school because they might get shot? Are you worried about going to a theater or a concert because you might get shot? In this world you've created in your mind, are all your neighbors everywhere around you in the same boat as you are? Decently employed, good roof over their head, good prospects. Now open your eyes. You can create this world. We have the means to do it. It's no mystery. Just remember that the federal government is not like a household. The federal government runs in an entirely different way. When they tell you that we can't afford it, you tell them, of course we can, because the federal government will simply appropriate the money, and they created it out of thin air when they did. They didn't need your taxes to do it. They don't need our taxes to pay for their tax break that they just made. They don't need to cut programs or cut spending to be able to pay for it. They just want to cut the programs. They don't want the programs to exist. The world you just created in your mind, we can have. You can be free from the fear of unemployment, free from the fear of molestation, free of the fear of school shootings. We can do it. But we have to do it together. Absolutely, positively, we need to talk to Republicans. There's no getting around the fact that we need to talk to them, because I believe that most of them, if they understood that their tax dollars are not going to go funding all of these social programs, that there is huge amounts of productive capacity left, that the federal government is resource constrained and not financially constrained, we will bring a lot of them around. All of them have family members that are sick. All of them have family members that are dying. All of them have or know someone that has special needs. All of them know someone that lost their job and lost everything. And yeah, they got another one, but it doesn't pay as good. All of them know someone or have heard of someone who is working 3 part-time jobs just to be able to make ends meet, because no one wants to hire full-time, because then they'd have to pay benefits. Talk to them. Get them to understand. Their opposition will drop. But more than anything, talk to Democrats. The Democrats that don't want single payer, not because they think it's a bad idea, but because they think it's not feasible. It's not the right time. We have to protect the ACA. It's not the right time for single payer health care. Why is it not the right time? Because they think they're going to have to fight the rich to be able to do it. Tell them you don't have to fight the rich. In fact, you shouldn't. Don't go through them, go around them. The rich are hoping that you are going to pick a fight. They are hoping that you're going to be able to say, no, that's it. We're taking your money and we're going to repurpose it here. They want you to do that. You know, they're like the Joker in the Dark Knight, you know, and Batman's about to, you know, come at him with the bat bike. He's like, come on, I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Come on, hit me. They want you to, because they know the minute you do, they win. They win because they don't want you to have single payer. They're making a shitload of money. They're making so much money off of the way the system is run right now. They would lose so much money as a result if we had single payer. So they're not going to let that go. And if they know that if you try to come at them front ways, if you come in at them head on, they're going to win. How do I know this? They always do. We had the entire Congress, House and Senate, and we had the White House, and we still couldn't get single-payer health care. We couldn't even get the ACA with a public option. They didn't want it. So we need to scrap the whole system. Everyone We have to start sending people that will actually fight for you. But it's going to start with you understanding how federal finance actually works. It is going to start with you learning that, and it's going to continue with you teaching that. As Steve Grumbine always says, each one teach one. We need to get a groundswell of understanding. We need to be able to get the most people imaginable. We don't need all of them. We just need a critical mass. Once we reach critical mass, it is inevitable. We will have everything. And the fastest we can get there, the better. So everyone asks me all the time, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Teach, learn, understand, talk to people, have conversations everywhere you go. Don't let an opportunity pass you by. Be a dick about it. Be an asshole about it. Be relentless. I don't care as long as you reach them. Everyone is going to have their own methodology of teaching and hearing. People always talk about the tone police. I know Steve Grumbine, complains about, the people who look at his approach, and say that's just wrong. You're turning people off. Maybe, but he's turning a lot more people on. Because for 40 years, we have had this shit happening. We have had this shit falling down on us. It's the only trickle down that actually happens. Shit and piss just falling all over us. And we've absolutely positively had it. So people are looking for people to yell and to scream and to pump their fist in the air. You will find people for whom that is the only way that it's going to work, that it's going to get through to them. Other people, you need to take a softer approach. Fair enough. Figure it out. Talk to people. That's how this works. Write letters. Send them everywhere, to every publication you can think of, to every media outlet you can think of. Independent media, corporate media. Deluge them. It doesn't take much to write a simple letter, one a week, and send it to 50 different places. Take half an hour, take an hour, whatever. If it's hard for you to write a letter, fine. Have someone else write it for you in your name, or take the time it takes to write it and then just keep sending the same one every week. If everyone started doing this, it would be a deluge. It will get attention. It's going to start with you, and it's going to continue with education. You want it to happen fast? Get busy. And that's it for today. I love you guys. I really do. I really want the best for everyone. It can be hard. It gets frustrating, dealing with people that just don't get it, that don't understand. But you got to keep moving on. Be persistent. Be a thorn in their side. Do something. Do anything. Do everything. Don't give up. Don't give up on your neighbors. Don't give up on the people who need it the most. Don't give up on the people who do pushback. They're victims just like everyone else. Remember, there was a time when you didn't understand this. There was a time not that long ago when I didn't understand this. And I do now. And I'm here. And I'm not going away. I'll be right here every week. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. I love you guys. Savage Joy is coming up in just a moment. You guys are the best.